see how DOGE's moves do anything to make the government more efficient, and even less to save it money. According to analysis by the Associated Press, 40% of the canceled government contracts touted by Musk are not expected to save the government any money. Elon Musk's sledgehammer approach to government has precedent in Silicon Valley. Mark Zuckerberg's internal motto at Facebook for several years was to, quote, move fast and break things. But Musk is now arguing that there's precedent in politics as well. President Bill Clinton's Reinventing Government initiative. Last week, Musk posted on X, quote, what DOGE is doing is similar to Clinton-Gore Dem policies of the 1990s. The current Dem party has just gone so crazy far left that it isn't recognizable anymore, end quote. Now, Musk would be onto something if it were accurate. Would you be surprised if I told you it wasn't? The Clinton administration worked closely with Congress and with each federal agency and department to establish a bipartisan commission to oversee the Reinventing Government initiative. Between 1993 and 1998, that's a span of 5 years, the Clinton administration eliminated more than 400,000 federal jobs through a combination of buyouts, voluntary departures, and layoffs. But there's a huge difference between DOGE and Clinton's projects. For one, Clinton presented his plan to cut costs to Congress for approval, unlike the Trump administration, which has so far bypassed Congress. And Clinton's process of deciding what to cut was far slower and more deliberate. Elaine Kamarck, a senior policy advisor to then Vice President Al Gore, told Fortune that the Clinton Commission mantra was, quote, creating a government that works better and costs less, and that they, quote, took the time to understand the mission of the agency and understand if it was important or not important, end quote. Unlike Musk, who just admitted to accidentally cutting some pretty crucial disease prevention infrastructure.
We won't be perfect, but when we make a mistake, we'll fix it very quickly. So, for example, with USAID, one of the things we accidentally canceled very briefly was Ebola prevention. I think we all want Ebola prevention. So we restored the Ebola prevention immediately, and there was no interruption.
They did not do it quickly.
It's just Ebola. What could go wrong? Elaine Kamarck joins me now. As I mentioned, she was a senior advisor to Vice President Al Gore during the Reinventing Government initiative. She's now a senior fellow and founding director at the Center for Effective Public Management at the Brookings Institution and a lecturer in public policy at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. Elaine, good to see you. Thank you for being with us today. I really wanted to talk to you after I read about you and the work that you did in the Clinton-Gore administration. It's got to be a little insulting to suggest that what DOGE is doing is a mirror of what you did.
Well, it starts out with a sort of similar premise that you should take a good look at the government and see where there are efficiencies, et cetera. But the method they're using is just outrageous, okay? They are paying no attention to consequences, which is why, by the way, they're having to backtrack all the time. They cut people who were working on avian bird flu. That's, by the way, running up the cost of eggs. They cut people, as he just mentioned, working on Ebola in Africa. They are about to cut people from the Social Security Administration, and this is in the middle of the baby boom retiring. This is the biggest generation in American history, and they're cutting, not adding, and they're about to cut people from the IRS in the middle of tax season. Good luck getting your tax returns, your tax refunds rather, sent back. You know that 69% of Americans get refunds, and they average about $2,800 a piece. People are going to be really mad when all those refunds slow down. So what's going on here is a little crazy. They are not paying any attention to the consequences of their actions. And we did it exactly the opposite way. We went into the agencies and tried to find what could be cut, how it could be cut, and what could be made better.
Right, because I haven't met anybody who has said, I'd like to pay lower taxes, I'd like to have more efficient government, but they need the government to work. You wrote in an article for Brookings this week in which you say DOGE has an enormous opportunity to improve the federal government, especially in the area of information technology. However, blanket firings and poorly planned demands for employees to justify their work week are undermining its credibility and authority. As court cases continue, expect more quiet reversals. No one wants to be blamed for rising egg prices or the next terrorist attack. This is an important point that you make here, that things can go wrong. The beauty of government when it works is that it's working as a background app and you don't actually know it's working. This is where the danger comes in if you don't look at the consequences.
That's exactly right. I mean, look at what the DOGE team is doing with these massive federal databases. This is really scaring people. This is even more serious than the cuts. These massive federal databases are responsible for getting your veterans benefits, your Social Security checks, for getting your Medicare, your doctor's visits paid for on Medicare. They're in there. We don't know who these people are. We have no guarantees that they've gone through the vetting process. And look, accidents can happen and will happen. And one of the accidents is there could be creating holes in these databases for hackers to come through, or Russians or Chinese or anybody who wishes us ill. Or they could be taking this data home in order to try and use it at some future point for some business that they're interested in. This is the databases, the across the board firings. It's just not how you go about doing this.
Well, I appreciate someone with actual experience in trying to do it, shedding some light on this. I suspect you and I are going to have more opportunities to talk. Elaine, good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Elaine Kamar is the founding director of the Center for Effective Public Management at the Brookings Institution. She's a lecturer in public policy at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. All right, coming up, the Trump administration